but there's too much to do.
It ends up being more stressful on you if you do it.
It's actually, yeah, it's almost actually just more stressful because if I just go take an hour, then I'm just sitting there thinking about all the things that I have to do. And so I just don't take lunch.
Yeah.
I may be, there might be some shifting of roles on the hotline team. I might get a bunch more responsibility soon.
Oh no!
So we'll see.
Yeah.
I have a.
Oh. No, go ahead.
I have a story with our Harry Potter role playing game that you guys will find it amusing, but it caused me social anxiety.
Yeah, like when you're creating it.
No, creating it is super fun for me. I love creating it. So we invited some people from Kelly's job because they're like Harry Potter super fans, and when they heard about it, they wanted to play. But then they're like, "Oh, I'm busy that weekend," and so then I invited Joey, the level 2 Joey from work, to join because I know he likes role playing.
Yeah.
And that was going to be 5 players. I was like, "Oh, okay, 5 players will be good. That's like a good number." But then people from Kelly's work were like, "Oh, I want to play too now." And so like the number kept going up and it got up to like 6 players and they're like, "We definitely want to play. We've been looking forward to this." And I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking 6 players is going to be way too many. I don't think that's going to work. But then it also got bad because I was like, "Hey, Joey, pick your house and then tell me what your greatest fear is and then I'll assign you your stats." But I don't think he quite understands role playing like in the traditional sense because I was like, what's your character's name? What are they like? And he's like, it's a half robot wizard. It's a technomancer. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? What did you say? And I'm like, that's not a thing. I don't. This is not cyberpunk. Like that. It doesn't work that way. And so then I guess he I guess he gets rid of that idea because I was like, I don't want like a half cyborg wizard in the game. I thought that would throw everyone off. So then he walks
What
up to
year is
me.
it?
What year is this?
Hard to serve the wizarding world.
Hogwarts
Right.
2238. Like
I thought he was gonna pull out like, a Tesla gun or something, and I was just like, not the vibe I was going for. But he walks up today. He goes, "I came up with my character." And I was like, "Okay, please describe your character. We're going to be playing in like a couple weeks." And I was like, "What's the character's name?" He goes, "Eric." I was like, "Eric, okay." And he's like,
cool start.
Eric the Enchanter." And I'm like, "Eric the Enchanter." I was like, what is that from?" And he's like, "Monty Python." And I'm like, "Monty Python, okay, interesting."
It's funny
And
because the first thing I thought of when you said Eric the Enchanter, I was like, Tim? Tim
right?
the Enchanter?
I was like, and I'm like, I don't remember him from Monty Python. He's like, "Oh yeah, don't you remember the character in the Holy Grail?" And I was like, once again, I'm like, I'm not sure this is quite right for the Harry Potter role playing game. I was like, so I was kind of thinking of just be like, "Joey, I think we have too many players at 5. Maybe just bring him to the next one."
I think you should just do it. Just see how it goes.
Yeah,
Make it interesting.
Sorry, my
maybe.
teams is like, you haven't signed in a while. You want to do that again? And I'm like, why not?
How about we do a couple games with just 5 people, see how it goes, and then we bring in a 6th person with Eric the Enchanter. if that's okay.
Sure, I mean, I totally get it. You're running the game, so if
It
there's like
doesn't matter to
a way that you feel, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
me. You wanted to be
Because
half wizard robot? That's cool.
what what also threw me off is he's telling me about playing Dungeons and Dragons, and he's like, "Yeah, it was so cool because I turned my guy into Goku, and I was teleporting around the map, and I would teleport behind an archer, and I'd snap his neck." And I was like, we don't play Dungeons and Dragons the same way, do we? Like,
I mean, see, my mind is trying to think of like, I wonder what build he was to be able to like teleport around and do Goku things, but I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. I don't know.
I just work here.
Yeah, it kind of threw me off because I was like, is he gonna try to break the scenario that I set up? Because I feel like he's gonna try to break it and do something crazy.
That's what players be doing, though, destroying
That
all your
is
hard work. The goal.
is that what Misha tries to do to you, Thomas, when you're the DM?
Um, no, I've never had somebody like actively like try to like mess me up or trip me up.
Yeah,
But yeah, players will often do things that like there's no way you could have accounted for just because you can't think the way they're going to think as the character, nor can you really
yeah,
understand how much of what you're telling them they're going to be able to actually pick up on.
yeah,
So yeah, like players all the time will just operate in a way that there's just no way for you to plan around.
yeah, yeah.
Which
Okay.
is fine. That's one of my favorite things is when a player like does something that like makes sense. It's not ridiculous, but it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. All right, I guess this is how it's going down now. Like,
Yeah. And like when we play, I'm kind of anticipating one of you being like, I want to take a trip to Diagon Alley. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll have to quickly, come up with that. Because it's not built into the scenario, but at the same time, I can't like restrict you guys from doing that. So
Right. I mean,
yeah.
I guess you
here's
could.
there's Tim the Enchanter.
We made a picture of him. Let me see.
I think it's perfect.
That is from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He's wonderful.
Oh,
Some call me Tim. Have you not seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail,
I have,
Jeremy?
but I
You
I
didn't
did not
memorize it.
remember that character at all.
It,
I did not remember that at all.
I haven't seen it in a really long time. But the
He's
character,
the one that warns them about the White Rabbit.
yeah, that's right.
He does the Lord's work. Green apple
Um,
today.
you still have more.
After this,
Nice.
there's two, and then a bunch of peppermint ones.
Oh, you're gonna be like running low.
They're
Hmm.
probably out of season 2. Something tells me. Oh no, did we lose Christy?
She's gone.
No, I'm here. I'm
Okay,
here.
cool. On my
Oh,
it went
she has
away. I
returned.
was gonna screenshot it when you like went back to moving. You were like peacefully asleep.
Oh.
I think my phone is just like, because I'm literally running like maps and this at the same time.
Oh, word. Oh, do you run maps on the way home to try to like avoid traffic?
Yep.
Yeah, I feel that.
Hmm.
I used to as well.
Basically, like to and from work, I just use Google Maps because I'm like, look, I'm not gonna sit here and take the same route every day and spend 30 minutes one time and 45 minutes another time and an hour another time. I'm just gonna find the quickest route and get home.
Yeah, totally feel
That
that.
makes sense.
And then my brain makes it a game And so I'll start, with the GPS when I get in the car, and I'll be like, okay, your arrival time is, this time. And I'll be like, all right, I have to beat that.
Awesome.
And so now
I have
it's
to beat that.
when I go home or when I go to work, it's like, all right, can I beat it?
Oh,
Off a few minutes.
I love that. That's awesome.
And I almost never win going to work, and I almost always win coming home.
huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like doing little games with myself like that.
Yeah.
A lot of balancing on curbs when walking.
Again, love
I bet I can make it all the way to the end of this curve.
Do you guys ever like shower and then you're like washing your hair and you're like, that'd be a really cool idea for a book?
All of
now.
mine are like, that's a good idea for a role-playing game.
Oh, is it really? So
Yeah.
like when you're doing something mundane like just driving or grocery shopping, it's more like that would be a cool idea for role playing versus like writing a book.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I used to like have the book thoughts more, but then once I started role-playing, they became the role-playing thoughts.
The role play thoughts. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Whenever I'm doing something boring, like my brain will just kind of drift and it's like, oh, that'd be a cool idea for a book.
Did you have a recent idea?
I I did. I don't want to share it yet though.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you, Christy? Do you ever have like ideas for like a book that you think would be cool to write?
No, I don't think I've ever come up with anything like that, mostly because I hate writing.
What?
I find writing like pulling teeth for myself.
Interesting.
Really?
It's
Huh.
like I am fine at it. Like I'm not bad at it.
Yeah.
I just find it like painful to do. So
Really?
it's definitely not anything. If I'm doing something, well, here's part of it. Part of it is
Yeah.
that if I know that there's something I have to do, but it's mundane or boring, I will put it off for as long as absolutely possible because I can't I don't want to do it. Like it's almost I talk about like my brain all the time because there's me who's like, hey, I know I need to do this thing, and if I keep waiting longer and longer and longer and longer, I'm just gonna hate myself because then I'm gonna have to get it done in a time crunch. But then there's my brain that's like, yeah, but I don't want to do that because it's boring. And so let's do this.
I totally relate, dude.
So if it's
Huh.
something that's mundane or boring that I'm doing it at the very last minute. And
Hmm.
so it's all this pressure. And so all I'm thinking about is the fact that I have to get it done. And so usually like I have to put music on, I have to like put blinders on so I can focus on this boring ass thing that my brain doesn't want to do. So yeah, there is no wandering for me. Not in those
It's either at rest or worry.
it's
Huh.
either at rest or like hyper fixating on something.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Or like anxiety riddled. So,
Aw. Aw. Okay. Yeah, I guess I just kind of took it for granted that that's like a normal thought process for everyone where there's like, you know, grocery shopping, they're like, what if, the things from your dreams, you could like pull it out of your dreams or something, and that's like the basis for
yeah.
a fantasy novel or something. But I guess that's not typical for everyone.
No, just because I don't like I just don't have any desire to like create anything in that way. So
Hmm.
I've just never really like thought about anything that way. I love to read stories and
Yeah.
read what other people have written down and like be in a story. Uh, but I have just like no desire to create one of my own, basically.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. Like I want to be in a different world, but I don't necessarily care about being one who's created it.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I just don't like my brain doesn't really like think that way, I suppose.
I guess a follow-up question would be, when you read Harry Potter, do you put yourself in the role of Harry, or do you put yourself in the role of, like, say, Hermione?
I'm generally putting myself in the role of the main character, like whoever is
Oh.
like
Like the point of view is from at the time.
whoever the current point of view is. So it could be like, I mean, basically all of Harry Potter is Harry's point of view,
Mm-hmm.
but like a lot of other books switch points of view, and so I'll basically be in whoever's point of view it is at currently.
Interesting.
I find
What are
myself not usually projecting into books. Like I don't like there's
Yeah.
times where I'll stop and I'll be like, oh, I wonder what I would do in that situation. But once I'm like story time, it's story time. And I'm not necessarily like trying to imagine myself as Harry Potter as opposed to like watching Harry Potter in my head. Or any character. There's very
Really?
few times where I actually put myself in like
Yeah,
behind, like, in the brain of the character outside of like a mental exercise of like, what would I do in that scenario?
right. I
Hmm.
suppose I suppose it's a little bit of both for me because I definitely like there's okay, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago when we were talking about how Bella in
Yes.
uh
Twilight.
thank you, Twilight is just so she's just so bland. She has almost like personality, and because of that, it actually was so much easier to just see yourself as the like it's me. Like
Yeah.
not like
That's a really good point. I didn't think about Twilight. That book specifically, I also put myself in like her place.
it probably is mostly so here's usually what happens. I think it's a little bit of me being kind of in their head in a way, but it is also a little bit as if I'm like this shadow, like attached to them, following them around and watching them just be, but then also I can hear their thoughts or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, it's more, I think it's a little bit more like what you described for me when I'm reading a book, Thomas, is more just following them. But there might be moments where I'm like kind of imagining how would I react to that. So I think it's actually more that where I'm just like following them around. But if it's only one person's perspective, I'm only following them around. I'm not like also then trying to think about the other person's perspective that they're interacting with because that's not really what's being shown to me necessarily. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I guess it kind of depends. But I don't know that like I don't know that most books I'm like, ooh, I felt like I got betrayed. It
Hmm.
depends on maybe if I really, really like the character and so I really feel for them, maybe I might feel that way because it's like, that sucks. I don't know. It sucks to feel that way.
Interesting.
But
I'll
yeah.
oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I find myself putting myself into the roles of characters if I feel like I can relate to them, or if that's like what I aspire to be, like some sort of fantasy version of Jeremy. Like for Thomas, when I read Joe Abercrombie's work, sometimes I'll pretend that I'm, in the role of Nine Fingers, and I'm, some sort of crazy, bloodthirsty, super strong man. That will happen. Or it, I find myself, yeah, putting myself in the role of like Harry, you know. So, huh. Yeah, I was just curious how you guys like read stories.
Yeah. But then I'm also um sort of based off descriptions. in a book building the world in my head.
Mm-hmm.
If they're describing, if they're like, if an author is very specifically describing the way that, you know, somebody is sitting in like a restaurant, and they're very specific about like the way that it looks and the area of the restaurant and how they're facing other people, like I'm sitting there like putting that all of, like I'm seeing all of it as if I'm sitting there with them.
I do that
Yeah.
too. I try to like build the situation.
Yeah. I have to like visualize all of it
Mm-hmm.
or sort of cement, and for me to kind of fully understand how the story is flowing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've always built the situation like that, almost like creating like a TV show or something like in your head as you're reading. So maybe that's where our like watch it thing comes from.
Yeah.
But I was on Reddit the other day and somebody was complaining about a book series. It's Jeremy's favorite book series, Malazan. But somebody was like, I can't get the vibe for the areas and like what differentiates like where these characters are from this character. They're like, I feel like the setting isn't lively. And I remember when I read it, I was like, I incredibly disagree. Like this area is very well described. Every time like something happens there in a new area, like you get a little bit more life. So as I've been reading the Joe Abercrombie series, which is what's kind of like got me hooked right now, which is a dark fantasy. I've been making sure that every time setting or situation or like people in relation to others starts getting described, that I'm like that I specifically build it, as opposed to just let it happen. And I'm like, okay, like let me like I'm like trying to describe it to like D&D players or like paint a scene or something like that. And it's been nice to read this and specifically build it, because now I have these really intense visuals that go along with the book, where usually stuff like that's more background. So like in Malazan, there's a city that's powered by gas that burns blue. And I was like, yeah, Darujistan, that city's really unique. It's got the blue gas. And I started thinking about it and I was like, I don't know anything else about Darujistan. It told me it, I just don't remember it.
Interesting.
So I'm trying to like take my time and actually like build those out as I'm reading right now. And it's been a fun little exercise.
Do you ever have where you're reading and you're immediately introduced to some character, right? But you don't necessarily get a description of what they look like right at the beginning. Maybe it comes a little bit later. And so you sort of form, you've naturally, or I do at least, I naturally form an idea of what this person looks like just based on how they're reacting or responding to things, or how they talk or how they think or feel or whatever. And then inevitably the description comes and I'm like, no, that's not what they look like. And so it may be like, I mean, so Harry Potter, I imagine he's got dark hair and he's green eyes, right? They reference his eyes looking like his mother's all the time. But it may be in a book where they reference some characteristic of them over and over, like their blonde hair or something like that. And I'm like, but no, they don't have blonde hair.
I have a character in my favorite book series. I imagined him with dark hair, and his hair's blonde, and it drives me crazy whenever they mention it. I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh,
like
that's interesting.
he's a dark brown brunette. Like,
yeah.
So whenever I come across those points where I have formed the vision of this character and it just doesn't agree with how the author describes it in the book, I will just straight up be like, nope, that's wrong.
Yep.
Mine is usually beards. Like if I imagine like the first introduction of a character and like there either is or isn't a beard in my head, and then I find out it's the wrong way later on. Same character that like has blonde hair and a beard, I imagine it with dark hair and no beard, and find out that like I'm wrong on the hair color and the beard. I was like, oh man, like gotta wrap my head around this. I had that feeling about Snape actually when between reading the books and watching the movies, and I love Alan Rickman, like love. But I remember thinking Alan Rickman was a weird choice because I always saw Snake as like gaunt and thin and long
Yeah.
and like
Oh, interesting.
towering and kind of Mr. Burnsy like
Yeah.
over everybody.
Yeah.
And he very much so wasn't portrayed that way in the movies.
Yeah.
That's true.
He's
That's
not
true.
even particularly portrayed that way in the books. I guess maybe they say hawkish nose, maybe like I feel like he might be described as.
Which kind of would make me think gaunt as well, or at least just thin.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like
And Alan
sharp.
Rickman, I'm not calling you fat. I love you. Spirit of Alan Rickman that I pray to.
In the books, Snape has my favorite voice and like the cadence and delivery of all the lines. Like he's not necessarily my favorite actor, but I like his voice and how he delivers the lines the most out of all the characters. It's just there's something away about how he says everything in the series that I really like.
You said like from the movies? Or
Yeah, from the movies.
from the
Yeah.
movies? Yeah.
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 It's just how he delivers his lines is just so unique. It's like,
It's so
"Hello,
good.
It's like
Potter," you
everybody
know?
else stops when he speaks. Like
Yes.
even though it's
Yeah.
not necessarily supposed to be that way, like
Yeah.
I feel the same way about McGonagall, but I love Maggie Smith so much.
Oh, you kinda like how she delivers the lines and, like, her voice and that kinda cadence, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely like more prevalent with Snape because every time Snape talks, you're like,
Yeah, you just kinda hang on, it's just, "Hello, Potter," it's very that low timbre to his voice, and it's kinda just dripping with, like, envy and just, it's just oh, yeah, I love it.
Yeah. It's great. Did such a good job with that character.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, good actors can convey more in like a look and an eyebrow raise than like bad actors can, like with the whole dialogue.
Mm. Um, I'm almost done the 4th book, and I've been watching the movies as well. Um, there was one sequence in the 3rd movie that was kinda weird. Where did the shrunken heads come from? Because I don't remember that in the book. They call them, like, fig heads or something. It was like a Jamaican shrunken head on the night bus, and I was like, "Was that in the book and I just forgot about it?"
I honestly don't remember.
There's
Really?
actually some interviews with like the writers and
Yeah,
director for Prisoner and J.K.
yeah,
Rowling, and shrunken heads are like a thing in some African cultures and like in voodoo and stuff like
That's
that. Like that's like a
yeah,
magical like thing.
yeah.
right.
And they added it to the movies. Like
Oh,
it's
okay,
not in the books. And
okay.
J.K. Rowling, I remember her saying like that's the thing that like after seeing the movies that I regret the most. Like such a good idea.
Yes,
That was so funny. I wish I
yeah.
had thought of it. Like I wish I had written that into the books. I was like, nice. I like that she sees like like in this interview, she made sure to like pick out a difference that she loved, and that's what she talked about, as opposed to like something
Okay, okay.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, uh, I was racking my head because the shrunken head features pretty predominantly in that sequence with the night bus, and I think they took a lot of liberties in the movie where it's just doing all these crazy maneuvers.
Take it
Uh,
away, Ernie.
yes, yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, oh, what are you doing now, man? It's like I was like, what in the world? I don't remember this. Um, I thought the 3rd movie was good, and then I get to the 4th movie, and the 4th movie, I was just shocked because the sequence where the Weasleys come and they get stuck in the fireplace with the flue powder and they're trying to get Harry out, completely cut. The Quidditch World Cup, where you have like the Vila, which are like these magical, I guess like this magical race of women that are super sexual. You can't take your eyes off of them. They seem to have been completely cut out. When they shower the crowd with like leprechaun gold, when they buy the special, binoculars, like it when they torture the those muggles and they're basically treating them like puppets. I mean, so much was cut out
Oh
of it. I
yeah, it
was
was
really,
just like screams and blasts,
yeah,
and then it
yeah,
was like knocked out over. That's right.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
The female counterpart to Dobby, what's her name? Um, there's like
Oh
a
yeah,
female, yeah, like a
Yeah.
there's so much cut out because
yeah. She works at the school, and like Hermione's talking to her, right?
yeah, she's like a female counterpart to Dobby who's found holding Harry's wand, I believe, and some people start thinking that she sent up the death mark. All of that was taken out. It has like Doctor
Oh yeah, because
Who.
it was Barty Crouch's, yeah, like
Oh,
elf, and that was weird.
yeah,
Tennant, yeah.
yeah. I was just like, I was like, Doctor Who is evil in this, and also there's the guy from Twilight. What the heck? Like,
Yeah, they totally, yeah, Doctor Who's evil in this. I just
yeah,
started
for sure.
watching Doctor Who for the first time. Um, uh, yeah, all of Hermione's stuff with the house elves is taken out.
Yes.
I
Where
think they
she,
didn't want to touch on that subject. I think they purposefully
yeah,
wanted to
they
avoid
did not even touch on the house elves. Yep.
Mm. And
That-
Spew.
it. And spew.
They took out Spew, which then changes its name to like the House Elf Liberation Army or something like that.
I
Hella.
fourth the fourth movie and I'll be honest, the fourth book are both my least favorite.
Interesting.
I'd agree with that. There's really exciting things that happen. You meet Mad Eye Moody, who's fucking awesome.
Yes.
I, I don't think they're bad. They are just my least favorite of all the rest.
There's really memorable points to it though. But yeah, if I had to pick one where
Yeah.
it's like I feel like I could skip it because I know everything, like the Triwizard Tournament in itself is extremely memorable. So I like once you read it, like three schools, Triwizard, remember the characters, like even if you don't necessarily remember their names, like it's
Right.
it's easy to internalize, which is interesting because in my opinion is probably the biggest change as far as like things Harry and the team have to deal with as far as being adults. Like, because it kind of came on strong in the third book, but in the fourth book, like Harry's in this event that might fucking kill him. Like, so
Right.
Andy likes a girl,
Cho
Yeah.
Chang.
Cho Chang.
He loves her. He spit water out all over himself like a fool.
Like
My
a
gosh,
frog fool.
I can remember seeing that in the movie, like when it came out, like in theater.
What is it?
I had such bad secondhand embarrassment from that.
He's just like he's like, "Whoop."
I'm so embarrassed right now.
That's
I don't even know why. It's hilarious. And so now every time
so good. I got secondhand embarrassment from Disney movies when people danced. I was a troubled child.
Oh,
Even to this day, like if people dance around me, I am incredibly uncomfortable.
ooh,
Like
I'm gonna keep that in
me
mind.
in the clubs, like I fucking hated clubs
oh no.
when I was a young gay man.
I want to teach you how to dance now.
I don't want to learn. I would love to learn ballroom dancing. I would love to
Yeah,
learn choreographed, organized dancing. That I'm cool with. Like choreography on a stage while singing, I'm fine with
yeah,
it. Totally cool. But like people letting loose and dancing, I don't want anything to
yeah.
do with it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to be in a place it's happening. It's not allowed at my wedding. Like,
No, you have to dance at your wedding.
nope. If you want to dance, go to someone else's wedding. I'm not gonna
When you get married.
be uncomfortable. Like literally, even just watching Aladdin and like people dancing during the songs, incredibly uncomfortable, even to this day.
Really?
Dancing freaks me out.
Even
Really?
Even animated.
Holy- Thomas,
You know what? You asked my
you-
biggest fear? Dancing. Dancing is my biggest fear.
I'm
You
leaving
would,
it as immobilized.
you would love the town that Footloose is in then.
Footloose is a nightmare. It's like a
Footloose is a
hellscape for me.
The movie Footloose would be a nightmare for you, but to live in the town that Footloose takes place in, because dancing was
Oh. Man, I wouldn't have any friends.
I would be your friend, and we would
Oh,
dance.
thanks.
It'd be great.
Which is funny because like Footloose, love the movie. Grease, love the movie. Like
there's a lot of dancing in this. Well,
yeah,
but it is choreographed.
it's
Oh,
choreographed.
yeah.
Like
Good point.
like step up and choreograph dancing. Like I'm okay with that. Dancing with the Stars, watch it with my mom all the time. Like
Yeah, even the scene in Footloose where Kevin Bacon is like on his own. He's like in the that warehouse and he's just doing his own. That's also still choreographed.
yeah, and also he's alone, so I guess that's okay. That would make it better for me.
Yeah. I always
There
makes me laugh.
was
Then there's a scene in Hot Rod where they make fun of that scene.
Hot Rod.
It's one of the best scenes in Hot Rod.
Oh my
It's so
gosh.
good. Anyway,
Like the dance scene in Pulp Fiction because I watch what
Yes!
what is done, and I'm like, I could do that.
that's one of my favorite. So good.
So there are exceptions.
when I was watching the fourth movie and the Death Eaters come out and they start setting everything on fire, I put an image in the chat, and my first thought when the Death Eaters came out was like, "Oh, it's the KKK, but it's just in black." Like, was that anyone else's thought, or was that just me?
When I was
No,
a kid, I was uncomfortable with it and thought that, but I didn't like talk to anybody about it.
Okay, okay. So you because
I
it's like they come in
thought
with
of-
these hoods and oh yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, because they come in with these hoods and they're very pointy, and they come in at night with their torches and they start terrorizing people. And my first thought was like, I was like, what? Like, this is very, it was reminiscent of like the Klan to me. And I wonder if they did that on purpose. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Because the Klan was never in the UK, though.
Oh,
That's what I was
yeah,
wondering too. Like I could see
that
them
could
doing
be
it on purpose to just, pointy hoods convey evil. Like that's like a truth in our society.
Mhm.
Um, as well it should be for Americans. But I really wonder if they
Right.
considered that when designing them. Because it definitely gets
Yeah.
the image across like these are no good. Like, you know.
Yeah. And maybe I am just trying to read too much into it, but that was like my first thought. I was like, oh, okay. Wasn't expecting that.
I don't think they ever made me think of the Klan. I don't really know what they made me think of in comparison to like real life, but I don't know.
Because I put a picture in the chat, and like now that I'm looking at the picture, I'm like, that's I mean,
I think they forgoed the pointy hats too.
Yeah, I was
After the
I
fourth
don't
movie.
yeah, I don't remember them looking like that after the fourth movie either, to be honest.
and I
Yeah, I'm looking
wonder.
at pictures for them, and it's funny because you can only find like regular hoods.
Oh,
Right.
really?
And so I
So it's
wonder if it's like
only.
English people didn't think about it, and then there was like such dialogue about it, and they're like, "Well, not for the fifth one."
Oh.
Like,
Yeah,
That
they did.
that would actually make a lot of sense because I feel like that image that I grabbed from the fourth movie, I feel like it's pretty obvious, and the fact that they kind of changed it in the next movies, that to me, yeah, probably people said something. They're like, "Hey, this is way too close to something else that we don't really
yeah,
want to go
They're like,
down."
oh
Yeah.
shit.
makes Americans uncomfortable.
Yeah, it made me uncomfortable. I was like, whoa, what is going on?
I think to me it feels a little bit more just like your classic. At least this is the feeling that it gives me before it gives me a clan feeling. Is your, your classic like witchcraft or just like devil worshipping trope, I suppose. Like everything
It's
is dark.
Interesting.
it's interesting
They've got
because the
Yeah.
American Horror Story Coven intro has a lot of pointy hat imagery and witch-like imagery
Yeah.
in it.
Mm.
Right. But I remember that one still not making. I don't remember ever thinking like being reminded of the clan, and more just being reminded of like Salem witch trials type stuff, where they're all standing around in a
Mm.
circle and they have like a pentagon or whatever, and like performing these ritualistic like satanic type rituals, or whatever people just assume that they were doing. You know,
Mm.
that's what it makes me
Interesting.
think of. But it still does feel very like, ooh.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised at all if, they made the movie and they designed those costumes and they were like, oh shit, I forgot about the Americans
Yeah.
and how they
I
make
love the dark mark tattoos, but on the like flip side, it's like, why is that the tattoo you want to get for yourself? So that it seems like you stopped following Voldemort? It's kind of a weird thing.
right. Support.
I think you should get it, Thomas.
Think so?
Hmm. But where are you gonna put it?
Where you have to put it on your left arm.
Oh, it has to go there? Oh,
I think
okay.
so, right?
I think it's the left arm. It's the forearm. I know that.
Yeah, it's on like the inside of your forearm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It's a mark so dark.
It's your butt. I don't know. It's either,
It's inside, like
Like
where
the
the
snake
cheeks
is coming out of the
touch.
crack.
Like, true story.
but that's why you see on their forearm, because I think most of them were just like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. So they did the forearm.
You can put it in two spots.
Here's your
Man, I'm excited about rewatching the movies.
Heck yeah.
I need to start doing that.
I
Putting
do
them on
too.
before bed.
I love them so much.
Now that I think about it, I usually do kind of save them for like after Christmas because they feel like Christmas movies to me. So I use that as like the last holdout of like, all right, I gotta give into it's about to be spring and summer. So like I think I usually watch them around my birthday or like before it, which is at the end of March. So we're coming up
Yeah.
on the time. I think that's when I reread it too. I think I reread them in March of last year.
You said you've reread them like 10 times, right? It's like
I
I
reread them
guess
a
it's
lot.
is it your favorite series of all time or
Um, well, when I was young, I read them every single time a new book came out. So like,
yeah.
start at the beginning and go through them. And it was also like, like I don't even know if my parents would have cared if I had it, but I thought they would.
Mhm.
So like I didn't like have it, didn't read it at home or like hit it. So it had this like nostalgia of being like a thing that was my own in a time when very little was. So yeah, I
Aw.
think it's like my one of my comfort series.
Oh, really?
And it's also, I mean, you're reading them, so you know how like easy they are to go through. Like, and
They're great.
once you know them, it's like
Yeah.
watching a rerun of Seinfeld or Everybody Loves Raymond or like whatever your parents watched when you were a kid. Like, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's my thing. It wasn't their thing. So it's my Everybody Loves Raymond as opposed to my mom's Everybody Loves Raymond, which is Everybody Loves Raymond.
I would like to read two passages to you guys. These passages I thought were hilarious, if that's okay.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Professor Binns, the ghost who taught history of magic, had them writing weekly essays on the goblin rebellions of the 18th century. Professor Snape was forcing them to research antidotes. They took this seriously, as he had hinted that he might be poisoning one of them before Christmas to see if their antidote worked.
Perfect.
I love that so much.
Classic Snape.
And the Goblin Rebellions is when the game takes place.
Is it really?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't. Oh,
The Hogwarts Legacy game is during the
Yeah.
Goblin Rebellions in the 1800s.
oh wow.
Wait,
S-
that'd be the 7th. Was it 8? Did you say 19th
Yeah,
century?
it was
18th
a
century.
okay, maybe not that Goblin
18th
Rebellion.
century. Yeah.
They're a Goblin Rebellion, but not
The different, the other guy.
Many rebellions.
yeah. They just keep hating how they're persecuted by wizards. So
Yeah, well,
this stays a problem.
it's clear even during Harry Potter's time they're looked down upon too. So
Yeah.
really not all that. They have more rebellion.
Here's the second passage. Tell me what this makes you guys think of. Okay. As Harry had no idea how long a bath he would need to work out the secret of the golden egg, he decided to do it at night when he would be able to take as much time as he wanted. Reluctant though he was to accept more favors from Cedric, he also decided to use the prefect's bathroom. Far fewer people were allowed in there, so it was much less likely that he would be disturbed. I read
Yeah,
that sequence and I was like, I'm pretty sure she's alluding to something else with this passage where he's trying to figure out the secret of the golden egg and he sticks it into the water and then he can hear the song. But then when you read that paragraph, you're like, JK, what are we trying to say here?
Did J.K. Rowling have any siblings?
I can't remember.
It sounds like a passage written about somebody who doesn't know about gross young boys.
I want to say she is an only child. I don't think she had any siblings.
I think she was too.
A younger sister,
Oh, really?
Okay.
Diane Rowling.
I know she got divorced, and I feel like that made her a very, what's the word? I feel like after her divorce, she's
Elegant?
a very, almost like
That the
like a
word?
defiant woman. Oh wait, what were you gonna say?
I said elegant.
Oh, I thought you said like celibate. I was like,
Very celibate.
I I don't like when I watch interviews with her, like she feels like a very like defiant woman that's very like kind of set in her ways. That's the impression I get.
Yeah. I mean, I know her first marriage was like very abusive.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. It was an abusive marriage and she had her first child. And so she eventually left with a baby on her own.
Hmm.
uh, but he definitely beat her, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Um, she's also like had no money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't
I
really blame.
yeah. I didn't know that. I just knew when you watch her in interviews, she seems to have like this very like kind of like business like brusqueness to her, like I'm not gonna take crap from anyone type of
Yeah.
mentality.
I feel like it's a little bit of that, and also a bit of just being very British. That's also just
Interesting.
kind of being British, and just like, I ain't gonna take shit from anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a very common, just like, attitude.
that's true. I didn't think about that. That is like the tude of the British.
Yeah.
It really is, though. Even if you're like talking to one who's nice, they're still like, no funny business. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I respect that.
yeah.
At the beginning of, I think, the third book, there's like an acknowledgement where she says like, thank you to like 3 or 4 people, and she names this one woman, and she was like, thank you to this woman for helping Harry out of the cupboard. And you look at that woman's name, and it's the person who was babysitting her child while she was writing Harry Potter, which I found interesting.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What a nice call out.
Yeah.
Shout out. That's not a call out. Shout out's positive. Call out's bad.
I knew what you were saying. All
Can I
right.
derail
I
us?
think. Oh, what?
Just real quick. Have y'all seen
Oh,
Starship
yeah.
Troopers?
Yes.
I don't think I have.
It's really good.
Christy.
Like ultra patriotic, like new, like all Earth is one unit, fighting against the bugs in space who are
Yeah.
like destroying our way of life.
Yeah.
Helldivers 2 came out, and it's basically Starship Troopers, the video game. So you start in these huge
See?
battleships and like go into hyperspace to like other areas of the like conquered realm of Super Earth, like throughout the stars, and fight the bugs that are destroying democracy and destroying our way of life. And it's so fucking fun. It's so silly and ridiculous and hyper patriotic, and we're just out there killing bugs. So that's what Justin
love
and I have been
it.
up to.
Nice. That's awesome.
I'm gonna check it out. All right. Everyone have a good night.
Bye.
Make good choices.
There it is.
You.
Give them what they want.